Happy Tuesday, family. Welcome to Excellence in Everything Live. I'm Lanita Hostin, your host and favorite student success strategist. And today's topic, words to avoid when communicating with teens, is near and dear to my heart. If you know my heart, you know that I'm really passionate about the intentionality of the dialogue that we use with our children. Because essentially, our children are like a blank canvas, and their identity literally becomes the words that we paint onto them. So, how we communicate with them, it matters. And so, this week I wanted to spend some time talking about words to avoid when we're communicating with them so that we know, we doing our best that we can to honor the vessels or the gifts that God has given us. So, we're going to jump into that right after today's intro. You are excellence. Your mind is of excellence. Your visions are of excellence. Your unique superpower is nothing short of excellence. You amplify a voice of excellence. Your contribution to this world will be of excellence. You will achieve your highest goals and desires with excellence. You are capable of excellence. You have an inner power of excellence. You will achieve excellence in everything, every time. So excited that you decided to join me tonight. For those of you who I have not yet met, my name is Lanita Hostin, and I coach high school students to produce what we call a post-graduation productivity plan with the goal of helping them implement actionable steps that will lead them into their dream careers and ultimately make you proud, you who is ever watching on the other side of this live stream. So if you're watching live, you can go ahead and say, hey, I am here. And if you happen to catch the replay, you can type in hashtag replay. We're streaming to both Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And so sometimes I do miss the comments live if you're coming from a different channel. So I want to acknowledge that. And I will jump in and acknowledge you when the stream has ended. One thing I wanted to add, if you've been following me, I mentioned this last week too, that for the year, actually for the entire year, 2022, the goal is to get the pursuit of Black excellence for teens into at least 1,000 hands of 1,000 hands. Yes, I had to make sure I said that right. And so I'm on a mission to do so. And I've been doing that. One of my strategies to do that is by waiving my speaker's fee to come in and speak specifically for high school students. They could be college age. They don't necessarily have to be in college. Or they can be organizations who work with that age group and population. And so I wanted to show you like a quick sneak peek of one of my speaker promo videos so you can get a glimpse of if I'd be a good fit to come in and chat with your organization. When I came out, I said, I am excellence. My mind is of excellence. My visions are of excellence. That's not because I'm boastful. I am programming my subconscious mind. If you did not come from that, if you did not hear words like you're capable, I'm proud of you, you can do it, I'm rooting for you, if you did not hear those words, it is likely what lives in your subconscious mind has to be reprogrammed. The things you see and say repeatedly will manifest. The things you say and see repeatedly will manifest. You can consciously be traveling to class, joining groups, and subconsciously underdeveloped in your confidence, your speaking abilities, your leadership skills. I challenge you, matter of fact, I dare you not to operate from a state of inactive consciousness. I dare you to be intentional about how you're operating this semester consciously. Such a privilege to do the work that I do. Really, really glad to do so. Hey, Natasha, thanks for joining us. Natasha says, hey, I'm here. I'm glad that you decided to join us tonight for tonight's topic, which is super near and dear to my heart. Words to avoid when communicating with teens. You know, words are one of our primary forms or tools for communication. And I saw a quote by author. He said, words have the power to help, to heal, to hinder, to harm, to humiliate, and to humble. Those are some powerful uses of something that we have that we use so lightly. And I think that we should use it intently. I think that the use of words, something that has power and has energy, should be used specifically, and consciously. And so let's just go ahead and jump in. I got a few that I want to share. And then tonight, if you have something you would like to share, you can go ahead and drop them in the comments because I would love to hear. You got to talk back to me. You got to talk back to me. Okay, so this is the one set of words that I would like for us to avoid. I don't get you. Like, this is often a phrase or response that we say when something that we either disagree with and or do not understand that is being shared and or a behavior that is being displayed. It's like, this is contrary to what you've been taught. I know you know better. And or like, I am so frustrated at the fact that this is not adding up. I know, like, you could do better, essentially. And when we're thinking about the words that we should avoid, I like to teach from a way of what you can use. So, I don't get you is how you feel. But when using your words to communicate, it should be the communication of an act. What is it that you want from them? So, if it's I don't get you, the better use of words would be help me to understand. So I love when I hear people who are practicing, not people, parents who are practicing gentle parenting, and they'll say, help it make sense. Like, help me understand what you were thinking at that time versus you, the labeling of, I don't get you, you are blank, 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 whatever you will put in the middle. And so always thinking about using the opportunity to not communicate from a place of feeling, but what is the need that you have? Is it to understand? Is it to help me to my mom sometimes say, help me wrap my head around what you might have been thinking. But I don't get you. If you think about how you would feel if someone said that to you, my initial response would be, well, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Am I like not meeting the expectation that you have of me? It's actually very vague. And so, if we want to be intentional about the use of words and for them to be in use with good intentions, clarity is important. So, help me to understand, like, what is it? What were you thinking? Or help me to understand how you arrived at that decision. Help me to understand why you chose or elected to do that. Help me to understand why you went over there instead of following my instructions. And it makes it feel less like the person on the other end is not as defensive. When you say help me to, that implies that you have a level of like, I want understanding. There is no, this is like, this is just conversation. This isn't defense. This isn't court. This isn't interrogation. Help me understand. And it's, you've said this probably as a parent or an authoritarian that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But the use of help, the words just help me alone. Even if you said that, help me, please. Like, even still, those are still those are, I would call them like words that don't create offense or words that do not trigger. So yeah, just be gentle in words. That's it. That is all. If you have not seen the inside of the Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens, I wanted to make sure you had a chance to see that tonight. I want you to take a look at this quick promo. With over 30 activities, journal prompts, quizzes, short activities, information on prominent figures, and historical learning opportunities, plus QR codes with supplemental learning videos, the workbook is a great tool for group learning within community organizations and school groups, or self-paced learning with parents and their teenaged children. I think that the Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens is a great way to help individuals get understanding about how teens process who they are and their identity, and then also be an active participant in how they're developing their identity. And one of the things that my three pillars that you will always hear me talking about, all of my content, all of the resources that we produce as a team with by way of Excellence Brainery, it will always be about building the confidence of our young men and women, helping them to be very competent for their area of interest, and then helping them to build what we call like competitive advantage as they go after the things that they pursue and desire. So everything that you see me talk about, do, produce, or host, it's always going to be in that wheelhouse. And I thought that was a perfect segue if you're looking for a resource to help you get clarity or help you get understanding. A great way to do that would be grabbing your copy of The Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens, because there are a lot of examples in there for you and your teen to practice. Okay, so second set of phrases. The second set of words that I'd like us to remove from our word bank is this one right here. You have until, some parents say, you have until you finish high school to get it together. Or you have until you turn 18 and you out of here. Or you have until, I've even heard this, you have until if you get pregnant, you out of here. Those are all words speaking to the timeline in which you're saying, I don't know if people realize this, but you're saying when you get to this point, I have an expectation that you would be self-sufficient. That's what those words are really saying. Or when you make this decision, the consequence of that is that you will be expected to live on your own. Do you see the difference between when you have until, like, those are like I don't know about you, but that gives me anxiety. Like, wait a minute, slow time down. It's not making me think conscientiously about what I could be doing during this time or how I could get to the end result so that I could be self-sufficient. It's only making me think about that there's an expiration date that I'm expected at some point to be self-sustaining. So a change of language would simply be, one of my measures of success is to see you stand on your own 2 feet. I know I've done my job when you are financially independent. My goal is to help you get that. What can we do, or what do I need to do to help like you get there? What are some things we could do so that you can get there? I want to make sure these last few years I give you everything you have so that you can be independent. I would love to see you do your own thing. That language gives the listener ownership and gets them to think critically without any pressures of anxiety or pressures of an expiration date or pressures of a timeline. And even if you're a person that says, you know what, Lenny, I ain't got time to be doing all that, I'm just going to keep it real. You can keep it real in love. Keeping it real does not mean that you can't speak with compassion. Keeping it real doesn't mean that you can't speak with the other person's feelings in mind and the byproduct of your language. If you think about this and you think about what it was like as a child, you could probably still hear your parents' voice when they were like upset, when they did something that ultimately made them proud of you. The words that they share have been vividly stored in your mind. So when we are conscientious about the words that we're using, we're also conscientious about the language that's being stored in the mind of our kids. You know that we do have thoughts that derive from our mind. So they start off as words, they become thoughts, and those thoughts become literally actions. So we start acting on what we hear. So when I meet students who are afraid, they, not very comfortable taking like courageous steps or even speaking up, my first question is like, what are some of the words you use to describe yourself? Or what are some of the words you've commonly heard people use to describe you? If that language is underdeveloped and or like lacking, like uplifting, is not encouraging, it's understandable why they'd be operating from a very limited perspective. And so the words that we use, they matter. You can keep it real and still speak from a place of love and compassion. That's essentially, that's all I wanted to say. You could keep it real and still speak from a place of love and compassion. And if you agree with that, you can go ahead and type in the chat, I agree, or I understand. I think that when I think about like even down to the words that are used inside of music, words that are used inside of movies, memes, and all kinds of things on social media, the words that we see over time and hear, everything that we digest, that we are absorbing, it affects us in some way. It affects our mood. It might affect our self concept, like how we perceive ourselves over time. And so I mentioned this last week when I watched Kanye West's documentary. One of the things that stuck out to me was how his mom edified him through her language. It was uplifting, it was encouraging, which I feel probably contributed to his inflated sense of self. But in seeing the good in everything, I could see how the words contributed to him having a level of courage to go after what seemed impossible. We want them to go after the impossible, to have the audacity to do so. And we first start nurturing that by uplifting them through our words. And so the language that we use matters. Here's the third phrase. Why do you fill in the blank. Why do you always, why do you, like, you are literally, when we say, why do you, you're literally saying, I need you to come to the table with an explanation. Like the same way, if you're watching me today and you've ever went to court, I went to court one time for a civil case. I hated the feeling. I had a level of anxiousness. I just didn't like the idea of someone having to decide my fate on the other side and me not having any idea of what that fate would be. But the feelings that I just described to you, if you can like put yourself in my shoes, that's literally the pair of shoes that we give our kids when we say, why do you? What I believe we're asking is like, is there a reason? Is there a reason why you? But anything that uses, and you probably have learned this in therapy, using I statements instead of you because it makes a person feel like it's a form of attack on them. It gives them an immediate reason to be defensive. And if you're the person who always says, like, fix your body language or don't talk to me like that, if you find that you always have to say that, sometimes you have to like hold up a mirror and say, well, how am I triggering that kind of response by my language? Some of it is triggering. You say, why do you always? I hate when you. But then you have an expectation for the response to be respectful for one. That we expect the response to be for them to receive it well and not be like triggered or have any type of elevation of voice or any disposition in their body language. That's unfair, actually. That's very unfair. So it's okay for us to use language that might make them discomforting and triggered. But when they give that language to us, then that's not okay. That, my friend, would be unhealthy communication. And so, considering, like, instead of saying, why do you, is there a reason? What might be the reason that you, can you explain why those words are a little less like, feeling less of like an attack and more so like having understanding? Again, the goal is compassion, understanding. If the purpose of using language is to communicate, then when we are asking a question, it really should be to have understanding. So, how we get understanding is by collecting data. You really can't collect, not authentic, but like substantial, qualified data unless the environment is conducive to doing so. So, if every time we're communicating, we're triggering or we're discomforting someone else, then the quality of the communication is very diluted. So if you find that you're having combative, like every conversation is combative, that's a good opportunity to assess how you're asking questions and how you are communicating. It's a two-way street now. It's a two-way street. We have to display these levels of compassion and love and having understanding so that we're also teaching that too when we do that. We're modeling effective communication for our kids. And the best form of teaching is to model. And so we have the expectation that our kids will be very expressive in their feelings, that they wouldn't hold back, that they would have understanding and compassion for other people. They can be sympathetic. They would be good listeners. Then we also have to practice those skills, even in a place of authority. And again, you can keep it real compassionately, and you can keep it real with a level of like love and understanding. That doesn't take away any of your extra cool points. Okay. So, those are some words that I want us to avoid when communicating with teens. Why do you? Oh, I don't get you. You have until two, and I'll leave you with one more. Any absolutes, you always or you never, let's just negate those two because that's not fair. There's not one person who always, absolutely, indefinitely does this. I mean, sometimes, maybe most of the time they do, but always negates that one time when they did. It minimizes that one time when they remembered or that one time when they tried. And so try to stand clear from you always or you never. What you can say is, I noticed repeatedly that I'm finding, or quite a few times I've seen you, but always and never. What we don't want to do is make our young people feel like we don't see the progress that they do make, or we don't see the effort when they try. And the best way to do that is to eliminate those two words, always and never. I don't see any comments tonight. I don't see any comments tonight. So that's our topic for tonight. Next week we will have a special guest. And I'm not gonna tell you who it is, but I know you're gonna be in for a treat. Thank you for joining me tonight. Again, if you are interested in having me come out and support your organization or school this year, you can go head over to lanitahostin.com/connect and submit the information for your request. I would love to come out and speak and support the work that you're doing. Again, if you're interested in purchasing a copy of The Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens, you can do so at thepursuitforteens.com. And if you just want to hang out next week and come back on for some good stuff, join us next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love you. It's nothing you could do about it. You are excellence. Your mind is of excellence. Your visions are of excellence.